Hello, I'm Terry Joshi. I'm the president of Yonkers Committee for Smart Development, which is one of the 4 citywide organizations that came together as the coalition and has been joined now. We have a total of 15 or 16 neighborhood and civic organizations that are part of the group that is protesting about the idea of a garage here. Eric has laid out this topic very well, but I want to talk about something else. One of the things that the developer is constantly bringing up is the fact that the plant itself will provide an enormous amount of employment and food that is being supposedly being grown for people in this northwest quadrant of Yonkers that are concerned about food insecurity. But we are concerned about that. But we also take the tack that there are people in town who are working very hard on that with the developer. And our consortium wants to talk about the other element of quality of life for people. And that is the quality of life to come down to this wonderful fresh air, sunlight, the view of the Palisades, a moment of peace and tranquility and an opportunity to exercise or just sit quietly with a book or some music. And that is just as equally an important part of the quality of life for the working class and disenfranchised and the upper class in Yonkers as anything to do with jobs and food. We want to make sure that we are nurturing the entire community's needs, not just food insecurity and jobs proffered by the developer. Laudable goals in themselves, absolutely, we support it fully, but we want to be sure that we are absolutely thinking about the holistic needs of people into the future. If we build a structure here, this area is gone, and it is in fact the only place on the Hudson River where we can come together as a united community to party, to sit quietly, to enjoy ourselves, to look at the sun, to look at the snow when it snows. So we are very focused on the quality of life issue that this marina contributes to the public.
And now we're going to Dominique.
Yes, hi.
Dominique, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you as well.
Dominique, let's articulate from your point of view, what is the problem? Or what the reason for your objections?
Yeah, well, I mean, basically it boils down to they're asking to put the parking structure on public parkland. And we all feel that there has to be a better solution. One solution could be their own property, or it could be a number of other sites. The developer says that she has considered all the other alternatives, but we don't know what those are. We have our own ideas, but we would really like other alternatives to be considered before coming to this solution. And I'd like to just talk a little bit about what they have proposed. Basically, what we're looking at here is a rendering that was made by a member of Friends of Trevor Park, which is a neighborhood organization here just north of where we're standing in Trevor Park and Woodstock Park area. The developer has proposed a parking garage that would occupy the entire footprint of this asphalt area in the marina. So from end to end it would be 1,100 feet long, which indeed would be the longest structure in all of Yonkers. I mean, that's a kind of monstrosity. It would be a 2-acre surface, and so it would really change the nature and the character of anyone's experience down here, because your only access to the river would be this small little area of green grass here right next to the river. And that would be the only place that people could actually access the river. And so the other thing I wanted to show you is another rendering of actually how tall this building would be. So the developer likes to call this a 1-floor parking deck, but actually it's 3 floors. So there are 2 floors of parking that would be about 550 cars. And if you look over here at the light pole here, there is there's a pole made out of wood that has 2 horizontal areas. The top one there is how tall this structure would be. And that would be about 30 feet. What the developer has also proposed is to put an intensive green space, actually to put back parkland on top of the structure. But we all have done our calculations, we've talked to engineers, and we know that in order to support 2 acres of parkland, soil, 3, 4, 5 feet of soil, trees, shrubs, playground equipment, other park benches and stuff like that, in addition to, when it happens to snow 12 inches, I mean, that's an enormous load. And that all of those concerns would actually take the structure higher and higher to be more like 45 feet, which is much higher than what we're looking at over there that they've indicated. So that is our concern, and that's what I have to say, and I'd like to just take it on to the next person.
Yes, hi, hello. My name is Pierre Vapor. I'm a member of River Communities Coalition of Yonkers, and I'd like to touch on something that Eric mentioned before. But before I do that, I'd like to say that we are not opposed to the development and the revitalization of the plant. I think everyone that we've spoken with, both from the Gorham Group as well as within our consortium, we all agree that the plant needs to be redeveloped. However, what I'd like to touch on is the financing aspect and the nature of I'll call it the opaqueness of the equity investors, as the Gorham Group has termed them. And as equity investors, they would be looking for returns on investment, and one of the areas that is of concern to us is what are those returns, and what are what's going to be given, what's going to be taken away, to ensure that those silent investors or silent partners actually do see this as a profitable venture. And one of the questions we've asked the Gorham Group repeatedly in our sit-downs with them is, what is the financing going to look like? Who are the investors going to be? And failing that, where has this environmental sustainability initiatives, the addressing of like the food insecurity, where has that occurred within their group, within their team, to show us the proof of concept? And through research of our own, we've determined and we've seen that there are a handful, actually just a couple of projects, which they've put out on through. So our question, there's a local project here in Yonkers as well that is pretty much at a standstill. So we would like to see proof of concept. We are in support of redevelopment and revitalization, but we would just like to make sure that we are not signing over a blank check. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yes, my name's Elliott Scott, and I, like Pierre, am also a member of the River Communities Coalition for Yonkers. I live in Greystone, and I share Pierre's skepticism about the financing, and frankly, skepticism as to whether or not this project will ultimately go forward in anything like the way it is proposed. I frankly hope that it does, but we should give away our parkland because of that, and I'd like to draw your attention to the Palisades, seen here in Yonkers exactly more or less as they were seen by Henry Hudson when he came up the river hundreds of years ago. Yonkers is incredibly lucky to have this expanse of waterfront, actually without the train track or a highway blocking it off. This park is a diamond in the rough, and to take it and cover it with a would be an abomination. Not just for the future, for what this park could be, but for the present. It's used by people all over the city. It attracts, I dare say it even increases the tax base of the neighborhoods around it in the same way that Central Park does. And one thing I'd like to also mention, probably the major stakeholder in the park is the Yonkers Paddling Club. And they keep canoes here, and several days a week during the summer they run free kayaking classes for Yonkers residents, most of whom are residents of color who frankly can't afford their own kayak, or maybe might not have one. It's a great recreational resource, and it serves the community, and as well as other people like myself who come here to kayak. And one more thing, there's a boat ramp down there. That boat ramp is used by many people with jet skis. You'll see them here on the weekends. It's also used by anybody with a decent-sized boat that they might use in the river, or they might take up to the Corinthian Yacht Club, or the Palisades Boat Club, or the Yonkers Yacht Club. The parking garage makes that impossible. It's impossible to get a large boat or even jet skis through the parking garage as it is envisioned. So in order to continue with that resource, Yonkers would have to build somehow another road. What, over the parking garage to the boat ramp? I don't believe this has even been considered. So that's it. I just wanted to say this is a great park, and it would be a terrible, terrible thing for a parking garage to be put on top of it.
Thank you. Now we have, you all know her, So, Tasha, from the City Hall point of view, has this been discussed at the government level, and what are they saying?
Well, I can't speak for what the others have discussed, but I was actually included in by this coalition. This is not my direct constituents that I am standing amongst. They called me and asked me to come out and voice my opinion as it pertains to the parking garage. So that's why I'm here.
And what is your opinion?
My opinion is, when I got elected, if you heard my speech, I said we will no longer give our land away to developers. And when I said that in my swearing-in speech, I meant that. We will not continue to give our precious parkland away. I remember coming down here with my family and tailgating and running around and sitting in the grass and reading books. These are things that I children when I do become a grandparent. So to hear that they want to take away the land, parkland, open space, fresher breath air, that's the issue with me. It doesn't sit right with me. Like constituents, they live in this area. They're here to voice their concerns because they know how important this space is. They live here. Someone that lives across the other side, this should be utilized. No one that does not live here, and when I say does not live here, I mean the developer, they cannot tell them how this should be utilized. It is not fair. And I should come out and stand and say, we want the power plant. Yes, we do. We want jobs. We want revitalization. What we don't want is we don't want to have to sacrifice it on the precious lives of our children that are growing up to take away the fresh air that they can have.
But now let me play devil's advocate for a little bit. I've been here for a couple of days asking people who are utilizing the park. I was here earlier and the park was much fuller than it is now. Lots of people. Some people were happy about the changes. The majority talking about the jobs that will be coming, the changes to the community. Now, are those only promises? Because we have heard sites in Yonkers.
Yes.
We have heard think that this promise is the real one.
Exactly. And that's another thing that people need to look at. When someone's promising you so much and promising you, do you have it in writing? Is this something that you know for sure is going to happen? Because once that is promised to you, then we'll hear those cries from those people that'll say, you know what, you were right. But by proactive, if this is something that she's promising, Councilwoman, I have not met the developer. That right there is an issue. Because actual developer.
Well, I have no, but just it's on paper. I can tell you about how many promises are on paper in Yonkers, and how many, what are the retaliation or
exactly. It goes back to enforcement. So if you have by stating that this is what's supposed to happen, when those things don't happen, the people that things are corrected, or make sure that they do happen so we don't have to correct them.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Now let's hear from a new judge. He's going to give us his point to this, and what is your opinion?
Hi, this is Troy Paris with the Friends of Trevor Park. I just want to point out something I think should be quite vivid. Yonkers just quite literally spent millions of dollars daylighting the Sawmill River downtown because we understand that parks and having park space is much better than a parking lot, better economically and socially for people. And for the developer to come here and to create yet another parking lot in Yonkers would be to only repeat the mistakes that we're trying to correct in the downtown area in the past.
Lieutenant Fire Department.
I'm just here as a
Yes, I was going, but he's also of us here are. And he also has an opinion about the parking space. He's not speaking on behalf of any organization, but
well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank the coalition that has assembled here today for all their hard work. The residents and the community, they appreciate it. And I can speak for them because I'm here so frequently. I enjoy this park, and I was offended to have learned that they might be putting a structure 1,100 feet long, the size of almost 4 football fields here. Now, I feel like what's going on is a bit of a lazy approach. I feel like the Lila Gorin Group and the developers, they have an opportunity to look at other sites and not put a structure here on a lot that the residents use. Now, for a little more insight, I can tell you it's not just the patch of grass that's used here. Actually, it's probably a 50-50 use. The residents, they use this area just as much as this patch of land. And at times, any one of the residents of Yonkers will tell you this is at capacity during peak hours, peak days, weekends. So it's worth a consideration. We can't look past that. That's a reality. This is the community's park. And the Lila Gorin Group and the mayor of Yonkers should make every effort to try and be there for the community, especially in this post-pandemic life that we have. They need outlet. They need to bring their families, their kids down here. They use the boat launch down here. This boat launch is, as far as I know, the only boat launch in the city of Yonkers that the public has access to. If they want to get boat access, they actually have to go somewhere north of Yonkers, and they have to fill out an application, pay for a membership somewhere in the thousands, and then hope that they're approved. So it's not just this park area that's being affected. It's the boat launch, it's the free kayaking. Those people there have done a great job. I was happy to tell my friends and family that they could go and take advantage of this extracurricular activities for the kids, especially during a time where schools have less and less money. It's just something that it saddens me to hear that the neighborhood could be without. And it's a neighborhood that is, you have black and brown population here, and people that are hardworking individuals. I would like to know what they think about this, and I feel like I already know, but I feel like the mayor and the developer really has to have a large sit down with the community, and that's pretty much it. But I thank the Yonkers Voice also for covering this issue that it's so near and dear to of the hearts of the residents and Yonkersites. So thank you.
What is this? If you comment on this subject, please of how.
I'll tell you. My name's Steve Wagner. I'm serve on the board of the Yonkers Committee for Smart Development. But more importantly, I'm an East Sider. Okay, I live on the other side of Yonkers. But when I moved here 33 years ago, this is the first place I came. I've been here many, many days since then. My daughter went to school right over there, so I would sit in this park waiting for her to come out and dropping her off in the morning. And this is such an extraordinarily priceless asset that we have in the city of Yonkers that, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to imagine what a multi-story garage is going to do to this physical landscape and to the emotional landscape of the people who come here now. The Yonkers Committee for Smart Development has worked with a whole to help them make good on the promise that Yonkers takes great pride in, which is environmental sustainability. We're one of the leaders now in that area. Leela Gorin also puts forward those kinds of credentials. We feel that this is antithetical to what they want to do with this particular site. We want and welcome the opportunity to work with them to find alternatives, but for this to go forward and be positioned as giving back a couple of acres of parkland, you want to give back parkland, look at the structure on the Hudson River that was built over a waste treatment plant. That cost millions upon millions of dollars. It has trees that require soil that goes down 8 to 10 feet. That is not going to happen here. So, you know, as I like to say, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig at the end of the day. So we want to work with the developers. We want to come up with a sustainable solution, but this is not the solution.
Thank you.
Well,
Our open statement, you spoke about alternatives.
Yeah.
What are the alternatives that you would suggest?
Well, there were a couple of alternatives that were explored in 2013 when this issue came up before. One of them is building the parking lot over in the area between Warburton and Ravine, where there are now currently greenhouses in Trevor Park. It's a part of Trevor Park that's unused. That's one option. Another option is putting underground parking under the ball fields of Trevor Park, which would also correct the perennial problem that is there with flooding. At the same time, after they remove all the soil and build a parking lot, they can put drainage pipes and correct that. Another solution would be south of the plant. It's a little bit tricky because there's no access road there, but there's a blue cube that is, I think, currently owned by Xtel. And so somehow putting some kind of parking structure in that direction that would take traffic to the south towards the downtown area is also another idea. I know a number of my colleagues here have other thoughts. Does anyone else want to voice?
Anyone would like to add? See, there is lots of people commenting and talking about it, and they're all asking, what is it that it's going to be there at the power plant? What are they building inside? Is it a factory? What is it? Anyone has any idea what the project is?
Yes. So I can tell you what I've heard, and I'm skeptical as to what will ultimately be, and I think that's fair because the developers, think there are a lot of unknowns. But essentially, it's going to be a place that's going to attract incubator companies to work on green sustainability projects, energy, clean air, environment, very, very cutting edge stuff, solar power. There's also going to be an event space, an art space. There's going to be a greenhouse. It's all going to be very sustainable and wonderful, and I think that's terrific. But first of all, you can see the building. It's going to be very, very expensive to redevelop. It's they're going to have to make a nice return on their investment. So whatever they're renting these places out for, they're going to have to rent them for a lot of money, and that I think precludes feeding the city of Yonkers with in-house food. So, but basically, it's an incubator. Essentially, the way I see it is essentially it's an office building, a very fine and wonderful and green office building / event space.
So just to make it clear, no one is objecting.
Absolutely not.
The issue is losing this space. Just to make it clear, so people say, "Well, I thought you guys meant this."
Practically any use for that space will be far superior to its current disuse.
Anything?
No.
Add anything to this interview?
I will say this. We know that there's a lot of emotional debate going on. However, what we would like to add is that we have brought a reasoned and logical approach to this discussion and potential debate, and we're hoping for the answers that we have solicited from the developer and from the stakeholders involved here. We are not against the project. We will say that in all of its finality. However, we do ask that we come up with sustainable solutions that we feel speak for the betterment of not only the developer, but for the community and the citizens at large. With that, we rest our case. We hope that you, as our public, will find the logic in all of this and come to your own conclusion.
If we were able to get a round table, not for a debate, but for a conversation with the developers, would you be open to that? So maybe your team and their team can engage in a conversation so the community can understand exactly what's going on and why the yes and why the no's?
Well, we have actually already had a very lengthy Zoom meeting with and Yonkers Voice would be happy to.
Yeah, in conclusion, I would like to just say that we have these flyers that we're handing out to people here on the marina, and it includes a link and a QR code to our petition. And our petition is the way that you can voice your support for the opposition to ask the developer to find an alternative solution to this parking lot.
Thank you for your time.
And that is, Leila Gorin is a developer. She has her own challenges and needs. The other part is the city of Yonkers and our elected representatives. We need them to be fully engaged in finding the right solution that meets the needs of the developer, but equally and more importantly, meets the need of its citizens. That's the key.
Thank you for standing with us, Tasha.
Yes.
Jen.
Hey, you're looking the most photogenic.
Yeah, just let me finish this.
Okay, run your dress.
Not at all.
Okay, everyone, come on, get behind Tasha. Get behind Tasha. We're going to say something. No, Tasha's staff.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
You
I want a
good?
photo
You good?
too.
I'll get there.
No, but just before, because I'm live streaming, then you take the picture.
I can send it to you.
Okay.
You want me to take it?